of education. Now, data released has indicated there might be some shifting of trends among students and the choices they are making. For example, the shifting from more medicine into other courses that rather from other courses to medicine, as they are seen as more marketable. We have more trends, in fact, indicating that less female students are taking up tertiary education. That will be something that we'll be delving deeper into to see what this implies for future job markets. And joining me for that conversation is Wesaya Maina, who's an education expert. Welcome to the show, Mr. Wesaya.
Thank you very much.
Right. So when you saw the data that was released yesterday, what was the first thing that came to mind, particularly with the headlines promising us that more students shall be taking up medicine and such courses while shunning courses such as agriculture that you would think would be very critical to the Kenyan economy?
What crossed my mind is the old mantra, every child, if you look at the children who join secondary school,
yes,
if you ask them what they want to become when they complete Form 4, each one of them, and I think it is what I'll call the Benny Carson effect.
Yes.
Because of that famous book,
yeah,
Gifted Hands.
Yes,
everybody wanted to study medicine. And that has pushed us. But we have not built such a powerful alternative narrative.
Right.
Like we've not had somebody who's done agriculture, anthropology,
even
sociology,
yes.
And build a powerful story to be compelling to compete with Benny Carson.
Right.
So the children are following what they have encountered. And for me, what puzzles me is how this government, this regime that has been in power now for more than 7 years, has failed to weave a narrative around the Big Four agenda.
Yes.
Because if the Big Four agenda were to be realized, the advisors of the president needed to have guided him.
Yes.
The basic things we are talking about now, washing hands, is universal health care. So we needed to have dealt with that earlier. Agriculture is a big thing in the Big Four agenda. So if we would have invested in shaping national discourse,
yes,
so that these children know that if you make your hands dirty, you get your money quickly. Blue-collar job is the future of work.
Right, and I've just mentioned agriculture as an example of one of the courses that students rather, are not taking up that could be actually very instrumental in building the nation. What other courses are we overlooking that could actually be detrimental to the future job markets of this country?
Actually, we are moving, at literally shuttling towards technology and literally forgetting and skipping the social sciences that are very essential in keeping society structured.
What would this be?
Your emotional intelligence is as important as your artificial intelligence.
Right.
So we are moving more towards the machine and dropping the connection that we need to have as a family. And that is why it is very easy on a dinner table in an ordinary Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret
family
house.
Setup,
on a dinner table, 2 or 3 people are likely to be having their phones on the table. Now, that is not a good thing because it tells you that that family has unhealthy relationships. Because people are not connecting to each other. People are using tools to get to each other. So as we move towards the courses that we are choosing, the medicine and the technology, the anthropology, the sociology, the education is still important. And as we speak today, we have actually fewer and fewer people who are getting even into the education sector, who are studying religion, who are studying history, who are studying Kiswahili.
Yes.
And that is a worrying trend, because we've had, since the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was promulgated, Kiswahili gained equal standing with English.
Right.
But then we've not had that converted into the national discourse to give Kiswahili its place. And we are having fewer and fewer people study it.
Yes, and yet other countries are taking it up. For example, South Africa actually has made this part of students' curriculum. Now, one thing that would concern most people as they're making these choices, it's not about balancing. That's not the least of their problem. All they want to do is do a course that will ensure that they have a job wherever it is in the world. And when you look at courses such as medicine or medicine-related courses, these are deemed very marketable wherever you are on the continent. So how can we remedy this? Because you cannot convince someone to take up Swahili as their major at the university level, and yet there is no promise of a good financial future for them in that particular line of career.
What we need to do, Trix, you will notice that more recently in the education sector, there came in place a national qualifications authority. That authority needs to engage the public.
Right.
That authority needs to demonstrate to the public how transferable the skills you get at whatever level can move you to another level. What we are lacking is an understanding that if you begin as a certificate person in any area, you can move to the highest level. But also, we have some, I don't know what would be the right word to use, but in the market, in the economy, there is the false notion that particular courses are more marketable than others.
Yes. Is it a notion or a reality?
It is not reality. It is not. It's lopsided because when you are studying at the university, when you are graduating, if you remember the citation that was given to you, Trix, it was like, you go and do all that appertains to that degree. It was not that you go and find work.
But that's what is come into the minds of students all the way since they're 2 years old.
University, and if you go to the origin of the word university, it is from a Latin word that means universal. So university education is supposed to make you a global citizen.
For sure.
You need to find anything to do wherever you find it to do and do it well because you are educated. Now, what we've done is to try and box our children into some spaces and tell them that this one is more meaningful than the other. Look at it this way. Safaricom is the most profitable corporate regionally, and I dare say maybe even in Africa. So which university, which school can train its students to go and work for Safaricom?
Yeah. So we're not adapting to the market.
So you don't need to train people for the market. You need to train people to be able to realize their potential.
Okay.
Many of the people who are working at Safaricom and supporting a telecommunications company did not study any technology. Some of them studied education, anthropology, but they are a very important cog in the wheel that makes the money for Safaricom. So what we need to do is to encourage our learners that whatever station they find themselves in, let them give it their best, because that foundation is only a standing stone for them to realize their potential going forward.
Absolutely. Now, you've mentioned Safaricom, even media houses do have a tendency to hire from various pockets of professionals. Do you think this would be a thing how can we actually make this a reality in every sector in the country so that everyone can be looked as a potential to benefiting the country, as opposed to just sticking to, did you study finance, did you study engineering, and therefore missing out on certain talents that could be out there that are basically tarmacking and forever not getting a job?
For me, my word would be that we need to let our children know that there is a whole world out there that is waiting to embrace them, that is waiting for them to show their potential. And if I can use very quick examples, if you remember Weekly Review, Hilary Ngweno, Hilary Ngweno was not a journalist.
Yeah.
He actually studied science. And I think at the Standard Group here, we have Ted Malanda, who I think was a teacher of biology and chemistry.
Yeah, we have lawyers, doctors.
So, so it means that you can turn your passion into something. So it is not dependent on what you studied. As an individual, I studied to be a teacher of English language and literature, but I'm not in a classroom. But I'm using that knowledge to undertake research and shape national discourse on education. So if my parents, my guardian were to limit me to a classroom, then you see, I'll not be realizing this potential that I have. But it took a teacher in secondary school who looked at me and told me, young man, you have a good voice. And that teacher walked me into public speaking and drama.
Yes.
That is what actually brought the other side of me into the life that I'm literally living now.
Okay, now building on that, let's talk about vocational training. This has been seen as a solution to churning out more expertise. We are told now that there is this interesting trend whereby over 2,600 students who qualified for a university uptake opted to go for diplomas rather than degrees. Why do you think students are increasingly performing quite well at the secondary level and then just shifting on to diploma courses as opposed to what traditionally would be the goal, to get into a university and do that degree course?
We need to realize that in Kenya, education is literally the only equalizer.
Right.
So many households are investing all they have into the education of their children.
Yeah.
So if you qualify to study medicine, it will take you 7 years plus. Because when you finish university, you still have to do your locums and internship with under the tutelage of established doctors for you to qualify to start practicing. If you take law, it means like after 4 years, you still have to go to law school before you start practicing. But remember, there is the opportunity cost at the household. So that opportunity cost can only be remedied by